I'm Aaron Spatz, and this is the Veterans Business Podcast, a podcast centered around the stories of U.S. military veterans and their adventures in the business world following their time in service. It's stories of challenges and obstacles, and an inside look at how veterans find their life's work, their purpose, and their post-military lives. We break our weekly rhythm because we recently welcomed special guest and Grammy Award-winning reggae artist Shaggy to the show. Shaggy served in the Marine Corps during the Gulf War and has always had a love for music. His career started before the military and took off after leaving active duty. He shares with us briefly about his childhood and what caused him to join, how he made it in the industry, and advice he'd share to our community.
Because there might be things that you really like doing that benefit only you, which is no good.
And also, I have to selfishly say, though we served at different times, it was amazing to discover that we actually served in the exact same artillery battalion. Small world. And just a quick note before we get started, there's just a little bit of language peppered throughout the episode, so just a heads up.
Thanks for your service, brother.
Oh man, no, it's a pleasure. I would go back and do it all over again. And likewise, thank you for the time that you gave.
Yeah, man, it's been a very important part of my life and my growth. Being in the Marines, I think when you're a young man and you're coming up, the disciplines that you learn are disciplines that sometimes you didn't really get out of parenting. I was from a single parent family, and my mother really worked. And it was easy to be led down the wrong road, hang with the wrong crowd. I think being in the Marines, it's once you stepped on those yellow footprints, you have three. You're put into a platoon, and you have three at basic training, three moms and dads screaming at you all day.
That's true.
And literally shaping your life with discipline. And it's what was so amazing to me out of the whole experience of Paris Island was the last day before your graduation when they wake you up in the middle of the night and sit down and have that pep talk with you. I don't know if that happened for you, but it did happen for our platoon. And when the drill instructor stopped screaming and sit down and just have a conversation, say, "Hey guys, all of this was for your benefit, and we were being an asshole for a reason."
Right? Yeah. No, that's awesome. Well, take us a little bit. So you share this quickly, a little bit about your background, and you joined the Marine Corps, and then you share with us a little bit about what you did while you're in active duty, and then share with us a little bit of the transition in your story about getting into music and how you've come through that journey.
Crazy enough, I was in the music before before I got into the military. I did dancehall in Flatbush, but at the time, dancehall was not a popular art form, and not a lot of people were making a living out of it. It wasn't enough to sustain, any kind of a lifestyle. You make some chump change here and there, but there was no reggae artist that really made it big. And so, me at that point, I turned to the drug game. It was in the 90s, and everybody was selling weed and coke and whatever it is, and you kind of, as a kid, kind of get wrapped up into that, But I'm no fool. The minute you see somebody, step in a pothole and break his leg, common sense says to step over it, and it didn't take very long to see some of my friends getting locked up and put away, to realize that, this really isn't the path that I want to take. And so I went down to the Flatbush Junction and walked into the recruiting office and just said, "Hey, I need to get out of here." And I need to get out of here for many reasons.
Wow.
I was in the wrong crowd. Two, I was living with my mother, and I we really couldn't get along very well, and I just needed to be out. So, I just kind of made it. It was probably one of the best moves I ever made in my life. Totally life-changing.
Well, I'm about to say that takes a great degree of self awareness and maybe you didn't even really realize what you're doing at the time, right? You're probably wondering what you got yourself into just a few weeks later, but there's something about
Absolutely.
that.
Absolutely. 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 You just hit the nail on the head. I actually remember my saying, what the fuck did I get myself into? Because I didn't do much research about it. It was very impulsive. I just knew I was at a place that I couldn't see where I was growing. I couldn't hold a job. Everybody was just going to get a job. I spent one day at Baskin Robbins and left the next day. I was like, okay, I can't do this. I couldn't have a boss. I had no discipline enough to do that. You know, I was in a household. I never had chores. I never, nobody, you know what I'm saying? So
Right.
I wasn't raised with certain values and certain things. You know, my mom just wasn't that type of person. She only had one child. So at the end of the day, some people, they're good at other things. You know what I mean? So I don't blame her for it. It's just, not everybody's supposed to cut out to do certain things, I think,
Yeah.
So I kind of just took it up and just say, hey, I'm just going to go do what I got to do, and a friend of mine had gone and said he was going to, so that's how I got the idea. And I just went ahead and did it.
Wow.
But yeah, I was scared stiff after that.
I'm sure you were. No, well, can you share with us a story in your career, and that may have been when you were in the music industry full time after getting out of the Marine Corps? But can you share with us a story that maybe it was a setback or a big challenge in your career, and how that has driven you to be where you are today?
Well, I guess there are many stories like that.
Yeah.
Because I'm in a genre that's not a very at the time. And it's way more popular now. Dancehall has become part of popular culture, but back then it wasn't, and so there were many obstacles. And so that drive to really continue came with passion at the same time. I really believe that you cannot be successful or excel at anything unless you're passionate about it. So I was really, really passionate about music. I was in the military, but I wasn't passionate about being a military man. I did my job, and I think I did it fairly well. I wasn't super excellent at it either. I was a cannoneer. I was a artilleryman, but I was also a very big character, So I gave jokes, and a lot of guys gathered. So the crew liked me.
Sure.
I ended up driving the XO at one point because he thought I was funny.
Nice.
Yeah, and I kept them laughing and shit. And but it also gave me perks. I ended up in the middle of the war. I ended up driving the chow truck, so that was perks. I ended up to go back to base camp every day. I got extra peanut butter and jelly and shit like that. So
Right.
It was really, really great. But music was really where I excelled. I was in Brooklyn at the time, and I realized two things. I realized that when I spit these lyrics, and I had a knack for actually putting lyrics together and spitting them freestyle. And once I did that, I got chicks. I got attention from girls. And if I talk about their hair and their bag and their shoes, I got their number. And then I realized that I got into clubs for free, and I drank for free, and I lived with the hottest chick, and I was the happiest man in the world at that time. So I was like, wow, I can really do this. This is cool. And then I did Old Carolina, and they gave me $1 million. And I'm like, okay, I can really get used to this. I did Bombastic, and they gave me another $1 million. I was like, whoa.
Wow. Yeah.
So at that point, I realized that a lot of what I was doing came from the military, because in making these records, I had to get up really early to do these morning shows. I do tons of interviews during the day. And then at night, I go do a concert and then wake up back, and I'm on a plane, probably on another continent, doing the same thing over. And it took. All I could remember getting up in the morning is my drill instructor throwing that garbage pan down the middle of the squad bay and say, "Get up, get up, get up, get up, get up, get up, get up." And to this day, I'm still that guy. I'm
Wow.
still that guy to just get up. It's time, and make it happen.
Wow. Well, there's an element there of just absolute endurance and perseverance and passion. And I think that just so clearly just spills out of you because you've been in this industry for quite some time. And once again, I mean, congratulations. You picked up your latest Grammy last year. And I mean, you've had a career that has spanned quite some time. And like you mentioned, it's in a genre that is not known for getting a whole lot of attention. And I honestly would credit you with getting the genre a lot more traction and a lot more mainstream play. And I think there's a lot people can learn from you with your ability to endure and persist through all these years.
Absolutely. When we were doing it in the early days, it didn't exist. So, you got to remember, Old Carolina was the first British chart #1 in dancehall. Mr. Boombastic was the first British chart dancehall record to actually debut at #1, and we did it again with Angel and with Wasn't Me and with the Hot Shot album. So we've broken down many barriers and actually brought this music and this art form to the front. And I couldn't have done it without that discipline that I got from being in the military, that drive that I got. And even today, there's things that, one of my hardest lessons is when people around you are not growing as fast as you and you have to make that cut, and a lot of time you make those cuts and those people have families, and these are harsh decisions that you have to make, and you have to make them because in time of war, there are decisions that a CO or an XO, got to make. That might be some of the harshest decisions that you got to make to get the job done. And I certainly saw that by being in the military, by being in the first Gulf War.
Right. What advice would you give veterans that they may have gotten out of the service? They're now in the middle of their careers. It could be just a few years in or many years into their careers, but maybe they're frustrated or floundering or feeling like they're not really going anywhere. What advice? What message would you have for that group?
Find your passion.
Yeah. Yep.
Find your passion.
Absolutely.
I was asked this question really, how do I measure my success? And do I measure my success with accolades, or do I measure my success with the amount of money that I have? And I said I measure my success with how impactful I have been to other people's lives. Do you know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah.
I remember with me writing these songs. I remember even with my Hot Shot album, there was 11 people that bought their homes and started their lives. They were young people.
Wow.
I see people gone to colleges and raise their kids out of songs that these 3 minutes compositions that I've written. So I have impacted people's lives in so many positive ways that to me, that is the measure of my success.
Wow.
And in finding my passion, that is where it is. It's that pursuit of happiness, that pursuit of bliss. And they would have to find that, whatever it is that they really like doing that benefits others. Because there might be things that you really like doing that benefit only you.
Right.
which is no good.
Yeah.
So it's not to be confused with the things that you like to do that just benefits you, but the thing that you're passionate about that benefits the world,
Right.
that benefits others. And that's your path.
That's so good. That's so good. What else do you have coming up that we can promote? I know that you just came off of tour in Australia, New Zealand. You dropped an album last year, and I believe you got a lot more tour coming up in Europe. So tell us a little bit about what projects you have coming.
Well, we're going to Europe in a few days. We're going to do UK and Ireland with myself and Nelly and Eve and a couple of us. And I just finished Australia with Sean Paul. I'm sure Sean and I have a lot of good plans that we have in store. Sting and I also have some plans ahead also. We have the Hot Shot 2020 that's coming out, I think, around April or May. This is my Hot Shot album, which is my Diamond Selling album with Angel It Wasn't Me. We're redoing some tracks from it, along with a few new tracks, and then also putting some classic old songs, old number ones like Mr. Bombastic, Old Carolina, and those songs on it also.
Oh, that'll be fun. I'm looking forward to it.
So it's a fun album, and a lot of them got collaborations on it. Like, we're putting different features on some of these songs to make them work.
Well, I'll give this last segment back to you. If there's any words of wisdom, any advice, any struggles, anything that you would want to share with the audience, I would love to give this back to you.
Anything you do that is going to be positive, to people. I really look at myself as being the luckiest guy in the world, and you really got to count your blessings. You got to look at the glass half full instead of half empty. And we sometimes look at the glass half empty. Look at everything around you, man. Especially if you're a guy that comes from nothing like me. I look at a lot of things, and I'm just really, really, really grateful. A lot of people look at things and just, you might be a person that is healthy. You might not have the finest things in life, but you have the finest thing in life, which is your health. If you're a healthy person, but you can't pay your rent, it's not the end of the world. You have your health, and you got to look at that.
That's great perspective.
It's been a journey and an experience. For sure.
And I just want to thank you so much for your time. I know you're a super busy guy, and thank you for carving some time out for me. I'm truly grateful and honored that you'd spend time with me.
Yeah, man. Thank you very much, man. Thanks. I appreciate you, man.
What a fun and insightful conversation. I particularly enjoyed his perspective on your passion and how it impacts others. I don't know if I've ever heard it said that way so succinctly. And what a career he has had. It has spanned multiple decades, and it's still going. He's sold more than 30 million albums to date and many Billboard-ranked singles. His collaborative project with Sting, the album 44876, earned Shaggy another Grammy for Best Reggae Album. His latest album, Wagwan, has gained international attention as he continues his current world tour. Shaggy has also been intentional to use his platform to help his community, the Bustamante Children's Hospital in Kingston, Jamaica. Thank you so much for listening to this special edition. If you've been enjoying the show, be sure to spread the word and tell your friends about it. And I welcome your feedback and conversations. Drop me a line at podcast@boldmedia.us. Connect with me, Aaron Spatz, on social media. And as always, new episodes air every Wednesday at noon. See you soon.